Becky Swain has made no secret of her mission to separate Lisa Swain from her fiancée Carla Connor in Coronation Street, and in the latest episode, her determination reached new heights. In recent weeks, Becky has tried every possible trick to win back her wife and daughter, Betsy, but her efforts have mostly fallen flat. After failing to convince Betsy that Carla was a bad influence and that life would be better without her, Becky appeared at number 6 in a state of panic, claiming that members of the gang she once escaped from had tracked her down. Viewers will remember that Becky's death was staged after she clashed with a dangerous criminal group, leading her to flee to Spain under a false identity. Her unexpected return to Weatherfield earlier this year shocked Lisa to the core and threw the Connor Swain family into utter chaos. Now, even her former ally, D.I. Costello, has turned against her, warning that there would be serious repercussions if she didn't get on a flight back to Spain immediately. Although Becky dismissed his threats, it's clear she knows her time is running short. Tonight, she seized her chance to push forward her scheme to drive Carla out of Lisa and Betsy's lives once and for all. After spending the night at number 6, Becky overheard a heated exchange between Carla and Lisa, where Carla made it clear that she didn't buy into Becky's tale of being hunted. Carla pointed out that if Becky truly feared for her life, she wouldn't have risked being followed to her daughter's doorstep, a point Lisa struggled to ignore, torn by the fear of Betsy losing her mother again. Moments later, Becky stepped into the room, and tensions quickly erupted. Harsh words were exchanged before Becky stormed off in fury. Later that day, Betsy discovered her in Victoria Garden, where Becky put on a tearful act, claiming that Carla had spoken to her cruelly and that all she wanted was her family's happiness. Moved by Becky's emotional display, Betsy confronted Carla and Lisa, forcing them to draw a firm line. Becky was no longer welcome in their home. Pretending to accept defeat, Becky left quietly, but it was clear she wasn't done yet. On a phone call shortly after, she vowed that she wouldn't stop until Carla was completely out of the picture, confidently assuring the person on the other end that both Lisa and Betsy would be flying to Spain with her soon. Will Becky manage to reclaim her family, or will Carla prove to be a far tougher rival than she ever imagined? Coronation Street spoiler: Theo delivers another shocking blow to Todd. Theo starts the morning by surprising Todd with a home-cooked breakfast, pretending to be thoughtful. However, the pleasant moment quickly turns sour when he slyly blames Todd's love of fast food for his supposed bad choices in life. Todd feels completely humiliated and crushed by the remark, realizing Theo's gesture wasn't as kind as it first appeared. Later, Todd is left fuming when he discovers that Theo intends to go back into business with Pete, something Todd had explicitly asked him not to do. Despite Todd's protests, Theo coldly reminds him that one of them has to bring in money, making it clear that financial stability comes before Todd's feelings. Eventually, Theo and Pete manage to call a truce and put their previous tension behind them. But when Pete casually mentions that other builders are competing for the same contract, Theo sees an opportunity to impress and immediately invites Pete over for dinner. Todd, unaware of the plan, spends time preparing a lovely home-cooked meal, hoping for a quiet evening. He's completely taken aback when Theo walks through the door with Pete right beside him. The atmosphere quickly turns uncomfortable. Todd is furious that Theo has blurred the line between their personal and professional lives yet again. Theo, however, brushes off Todd's frustration, insisting that they must do whatever it takes to win Pete's business deal. With tension thick in the air, Todd is forced to decide whether to go along with Theo's scheme or finally stand his ground. Meanwhile, over at the bistro, emotions run high as Nick, Toya, and Bethany are left horrified when David blurts out that the baby is gravely ill and may not even pull through. The shocking news sends everyone into a panic as they bombard him with desperate questions, only for Shona to lose her temper and storm out in tears, unable to cope with the stress and pity. Elsewhere, Abby puts Carl under pressure by asking if he's truly satisfied with the life they're building together. Sensing her insecurity, Carl assures her that he's fully committed and happier than ever. After dropping little Alfie off at nursery, Abby returns home to discover that Carl has transformed their flat into a romantic paradise, candles flickering everywhere, soft music playing, and dinner ready on the table. But just as Abby excuses herself to the bathroom, Carl secretly cancels an incoming call on her phone, determined that nothing and no one will interrupt their perfect evening together. Also tonight, Nina corners Roy about his strange obsession with the Daily Post. She confronts him directly, demanding to know what's behind his secretive behavior and why he's become so fixated on the mail. Roy tries to deflect, but Nina's intuition tells her there's something he's not sharing. Finally, Daniel bumps into Megan and strikes up a friendly chat. He soon learns from Will that Megan is planning to move closer to Weatherfield. Always eager to help, Daniel kindly offers to ask around about potential job openings at Weatherfield High. Grateful for his thoughtfulness, Megan gives him her phone number, a gesture that doesn't go unnoticed by Will, whose jealousy is written all over his face. Coronation Street chaos as Abby lands a punch on Tracy following Carl's betrayal. Coronation Street viewers are in for explosive drama next week on the ITV soap as tensions between Abby Franklin and Tracy Barlow spiral completely out of control, all thanks to Carl Webster's manipulative behavior, which also drags Kevin Webster into the mess. Big storylines are set to unfold, including an intense showdown that ends in a shocking brawl. Abby loses her cool and punches Tracy during a fiery confrontation, sending shockwaves through Weatherfield. The dramatic clash erupts after Abby's complicated romance with her brother-in-law, Carl Webster, takes another dark turn. Abby has betrayed her husband, Kevin Webster, by having an affair with his brother, and now the two are officially together, though not everything is as it seems. Unbeknownst to Abby, Carl has been keeping secrets and stirring up even more trouble behind her back. Next week, his scheming sets off a fresh wave of tension. When Abby heads to a counseling session and her little boy Alfie falls ill at nursery, she asks Carl to pick him up. But things take an awkward twist when they bump into Kevin. Young Alfie is delighted to see his dad, but Carl quickly passes the child over to Kevin, dodging responsibility and making Abby wonder whether he's truly invested in their new life together. Carl brushes off her worries and insists he's devoted to both her and Alfie, though his lack of enthusiasm suggests otherwise. Later in the week, Abby drops Alfie off at nursery and comes home to a surprise. Carl has filled their flat with glowing candles, soft lighting, and romantic touches in an attempt to win her over. However, while Abby briefly steps out of the room, Carl declines a call on her phone, determined that nothing and no one will interrupt their evening. But the question remains, who was trying to reach her? The situation worsens when Abby feels heartbroken that her stepson Jack continues to give her the cold shoulder. As frustrations build, her patience finally snaps. When Tracy cruelly remarks that Kevin was the only decent parent Alfie ever had, Abby completely loses control and lashes out, landing a punch squarely on Tracy. Her fury quickly turns to horror when she realizes that Kevin has witnessed the entire altercation. Elsewhere on the Cobbles, Tim Metcalf and his wife Sally find themselves at odds once again. Sally can't stop making pointed comments about Trisha, convinced she's hiding something. When they run into Trisha with a teenage boy, Sally immediately jumps to conclusions and accuses her of having another inappropriate affair. Moments later, it's revealed that the young man is actually Trisha's nephew, leaving Sally humiliated and Tim utterly mortified. The fallout from the misunderstanding causes tension at home, and when Brody begins asking uncomfortable questions, Tim loses his temper and snaps, leaving the youngster hurt and confused. Meanwhile, Todd Grimshaw faces chaos of his own after oversleeping and turning up late for work. His boss, George Shuttleworth, is already stressed and decides to head out with Christina Boyd instead, telling Todd not to bother helping. At the same time, Theo Silverton continues to manipulate Todd's emotions, pushing him to criticize George and stirring conflict between them. Before long, Todd loses his patience with Theo's mind games. Later in the week, Theo shifts tactics, mocking Todd's eating habits and cruelly suggesting that his weakness for junk food is the reason he makes bad choices. Todd feels deeply hurt by the insult, but his anger intensifies when he discovers Theo intends to go into business with Pete, the very man Theo recently had a fling with. When Pete later arrives at their home for dinner, Todd can barely contain his rage. The following morning, Theo tries to make light of the tension by serving Todd a fancy breakfast of pastries before suggesting he should burn off the calories with a run. When Todd refuses, Theo snaps and deliberately tries to make him jealous by going jogging with James Bailey instead. How far will Theo push Todd before he finally fights back? And will their relationship survive another of Theo's manipulative games? Coronation Street airs Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 p.m. on ITV1, with episodes available for streaming on ITVX and YouTube.